And the Oscar goes to... It's a clean sweep. The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, Barry M. Osborne, Peter Jackson, and Fran Walsh producers.
In his 2004 Academy Award acceptance speech for Best Picture, Peter Jackson stated that his first feature, Bad Taste, was
wisely overlooked by the Academy.
This begs the question, how did Jackson's films take him from here
I'm born again
to here? Ian Pryor suggests that there is only one major element common to every feature film Jackson has made to date, and that element is special effects. By tracing the evolution of special effects in Jackson's films, evidence may be garnered to suggest Jackson's advancement in special effects was a major catalyst for his evolution and success as a filmmaker. To test this theory, we ask the question, how has Peter Jackson's use of special effects evolved throughout his filmmaking career? To this question, we shall examine Jackson's use of special effects over 3 films, which according to Alfio Leota, each mark the onset of 3 periods which correspond to 3 important stages in Jackson's career. Bad Taste, Heavenly Creatures, and The Lord of the Rings. By his 23rd birthday, Jackson had acquired a 16mm Bolex camera and set out to make a 10-minute short which would eventually become his first feature, Bad Taste.
Suck my spinning steel, shithead!
As a science fiction slapstick splatter comedy, Bad Taste relied heavily upon special effects, as it concentrated predominantly on the comic potential of physical situations, noting the influence of Monty Python's Flying Circus on Jackson's early films. When I was doing all the special effects on Bad Taste myself, everything had to be as cheap as possible. I'd be in my little basement studio workshop making models and special effects until 2 in the morning. Jackson spent hours working on the special effects, and pulling off such illusions provided him with a film school where he could learn from his mistakes. I sculpted the aliens myself. I didn't want to copy anything. I wanted to make my own aliens. Since his first feature, Jackson established his want for originality, and had an imagination that carried his creativity through a time when money was scarce. Mum's oven was used to bake the latex alien heads. I'd never used latex before this film. It really was a crash course in that respect. Tom Savini's Grand Illusions book was my main reference source throughout. I had fiberglass and wires inside the masks so the lips could move. Grotesque alien vomiting was achieved with a face-molded prosthetic with a funnel to pour in the edible vomit mixture of muesli, milk, yogurt and food colouring. Prop guns were home-drilled aluminium tubing and cardboard. The actors would shake them to give the impression of recoil from firing, and white flashes would be optically burned into the film. The ingenuity that characterized Jackson's approach to special effects was later adopted by Richard Taylor and Tanya Roger, who joined Jackson's next project, Meet the Feebles, and later co-founded with Jackson world-leading special effects company Weta. Although Jackson's use of special effects and Bad Taste were well received, critics such as Helen Martin described them as of an adolescent nature. Pryor agrees with Martin that although Jackson's slapstick trilogy is full of special effects, the urge is essentially comedic, and Jackson maintained a childlike sensibility, though with a desire for periodic reinvention, and reinvented Jackson's special effects would-be 6 years after the release of Bad Taste, as he transitioned into Leota's marked maturity period with the true New Zealand crime drama Heavenly Creatures. Heavenly Creatures, based on the true New Zealand Parker Holm murder, marked Jackson's transition from cult director of splatter movies to a respectable film auteur. It was the first time Jackson used digital technology in one of his films, and the effects team, comprising of Richard Taylor, Tanya Roger and George Port, played a crucial role. Port spent months using some of the first equipment available in the open market to create CGI images like the butterflies, fantastic landscapes, and altering the Holm house so it appeared historically accurate. Meanwhile, Taylor and Roger created the film's physical effects, notably the plasticine suits worn by the Borovnians. Jackson creates a magic place filled with lush gardens and giant butterflies, a paradise of music, art, and pure enjoyment. The beguiling carnivalesque atmosphere is thought of by Grant to be inspired by the afterlife in the fellow Kiwi Vincent Ward directed What Dreams May Come. The purchasing of the leased equipment used for Heavenly Creatures birthed Weta. Woods argues the emergence of Jackson's digital effects company Weta Digital owed as much to its collaborators Richard Taylor and George Port as it did to the director himself. Although both the film and its special effects partially departed from Jackson's previous work of gore, splatter and crass humour, Leota argues they were still animated by his interest in fantasy and fantastical worlds. Liotta argues that Heavenly Creatures is one of Jackson's greatest achievements that allowed him to further develop and legitimate an authorial vision and become the cinematic calling card leading to larger projects, notably one depicting hobbits in Middle-earth. To begin Jackson's emergence into his Liotta-marked international period, Jackson sought to bring to life one of the largest literary fantasy worlds to date, with 3 huge blockbuster films known as The Lord of the Rings. These films were a hive of special effects, combining both practical physical effects for armory, prosthetics, costuming and makeup, and digital effects for everything else and beyond. One of the distinctive marks of Peter Jackson's style, Liotta argues, is his ability to employ innovative digital technology to enhance the realism of the fantastic worlds that he is trying to depict. Notably, this can be reflected in Jackson's employment of motion capture. Weta Digital developed an innovative real-time mocap system, which streamed the actions of Andy Serkis into the CG character. Jackson publicly supported the recognition of actors providing mocap performances. Despite winning the Academy Award for Special Effects in 2003, Jackson supported an Oscar nomination for Andy Serkis' role as Gollum, saying, "To be honest, I think that what Andy has ultimately achieved with Gollum is as relevant an acting performance as the Elephant Man with John Hurt." Other significant effect developments include the massive software used for battle sequences, the use of bigatures, and the astounding number of physical prosthetics and weapons made for the thousands of extras to sustain a 12-month shooting period. Liotta thinks Jackson's talent lies in his ability to find the right balance between innovative special effects and the story he needs to tell. The whole ethos of the way Peter works is making it more truthful and not just a special effects movie, Nathan adds. The emergence of Weta led to a profound change in the New Zealand film industry, Liotta and O'Regan argue, as working for the leading visual effects company internationally meant staying in rather than leaving New Zealand. Both Jackson and Weta would go on to further defy effects expectations, notably with 2005's King Kong and the subsequent prequel Hobbit trilogy. From humble beginnings baking prosthetics in his mother's oven, to developing industry-leading digital effects technologies, the evolution of Peter Jackson's special effects is a backyard odyssey. Working exclusively from home, the do-it-yourself Kiwi film geek and monster cultist has extended the range of what is possible in both special effects and global commercial cinema. Boyish antics provided the development of effects in Bad Taste, digital effects were introduced in Heavenly Creatures, and in The Lord of the Rings, special effects evolved to bring the fantastical world of Middle-earth to life. Whether or not Jackson's special effects are responsible for his success as a filmmaker, one thing can be made certain: Peter Jackson's effects are as special as his legacy.